I was born in the year 1997, which, depending on how you measure generations, either makes me a really young millennial or a really old zoomer. Old enough to remember when you'd have TVs wheeled in and you would watch the Polar Express right before Christmas break, but young enough to remember the rise of social media and when everybody in school had the newest iPhone. God, where'd my 20s go? Man, the COVID pandemic really messed with my perception of time. One cultural thing that all kids born between 95 and 2000 understood, though, was TV. Specifically, cable TV. If you wanted to watch a show, you had to make sure all your homework was done first and that it wasn't playing during dinner. And when you did watch the show, you would get ad breaks and then you would have to go to the bathroom or grab a snack. But you'd have to make sure you were back in front of the TV because you didn't want to miss anything. There was no rewind button unless you recorded it on the VCR. Then came Netflix, this wonderful new medium that allows you to stream anything for just $8 a month. No ads. Of course, you would need internet, but hey, just get rid of cable and you can just pay for internet and Netflix. Thus began cutting the cord, so to speak. Cable was going to become this relic of the past. We don't need cable anymore. Netflix is the future. Of course, Netflix eventually started producing their original content. House of Cards was the big one. Amazon Prime eventually got into the game with The Man in High Castle. And for a brief moment there, it seemed that streaming could become the new upper echelon in terms of producing quality entertainment. It wouldn't fall to the same errors that stumbled cable TV. It would be a cheap alternative that only produced the most exceptional programming. And that's how it was for a whole 5 seconds. Then, of course, we got all the other streaming services coming out, and now there's price gouging, and now there's ads on streaming services. I'm sure a lot of people like me are thinking, what happened? I thought Netflix was supposed to be the big cable TV killer. We wouldn't need to have to plan around for TV shows to come on. We wouldn't have to sit through ads. We could choose whatever episode we wanted, pause, play, rewind, fast forward, at our convenience, and it would only cost about maybe a couple cups of Starbucks. Now, if you want all your streaming services to be completely ad-free, something that was the standard just a decade and a half ago, you would have to pay exorbitantly. If you were to pay for the highest subscription rate for all the streaming services, you would be paying a heck of a lot more than you ever did for cable. So that does beg the question though, is cable due for a comeback? Think about it this way. Cable TV has TV shows and movies, granted edited movies. They have commercial breaks, but they let you know that it was going to be a commercial break. Streaming services just plop an ad wherever they want, even if it disrupts the flow of the story. In fact, that's how TV shows were written. They were written with ad breaks in mind. That's why a lot of older shows have those cut to black moments, because they're meant to be ad breaks. I think it's getting to critical mass where the price of wanting the premium streaming experience is outweighing the benefits of convenience. Cable TV, sure, you might have to check the listings and make sure you click on it at the right time, but the only real thing that separates cable and streaming now is where they place the ads. There's really only two differences between cable and streaming these days: when they play the ads and what time they're on. Cable TV, you have to check the times and see if the show you want to watch is, or the movie you want to watch is playing on a specific channel that night. Netflix and Amazon, yeah, you'll be able to choose whatever you want, but they'll interrupt the flow of things with an ad. At least with cable TV, they kind of ease you into the commercial breaks so you can tune out. Not only that, but there's a certain joy in just flipping through channels and seeing what's on, especially when it comes to movies. And probably the most famous example is It's a Wonderful Life. It absolutely bombed at the box office, but they played it on cable TV throughout the years, and it developed a following that way. How many classic movies are being played on TV right now that you're not aware of? Is it worth going back to cable just to experience the joy of flipping through channels and finding something to watch? How is going through channels any different than jumping between streaming services to find the show or movie that you want to watch? Or you may not even know what you want to watch, so isn't it better to just flick through the channels and see what comes up? I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old zoomer who can't let go of the fact that cable is becoming a relic. I'm just saying that in terms of the quality that goes on cable TV and streaming services, there's not really much of a difference. Netflix and Amazon had it in the past when they had shows like House of Cards or The Man in High Castle. But now they just produce a bunch of slop. I mean, Disney and Paramount have distributed their streaming exclusive shows on cable TV. So it goes back to the question of why not just cut out the middleman and go back to cable? But of course, this all starts with patient zero, Netflix. Netflix was never meant to be this new frontier of entertainment. It was merely meant to be a library. It was essentially Blockbuster for the future generation. Now, to my knowledge, Blockbuster never got into the movie making business, and perhaps that's why it succeeded for as long as it did. That's what I think these studios need to realize, is that you can't have a streaming service for just your content. You're going to have to make sacrifices and license them to other platforms, whether that's making future Yellowstone spin-offs for cable or releasing the next entry in your gritty superhero saga on Netflix. I think cable at the end of the day is a necessary evil. Something for the studios to realize that they can't have their own ecosystems. They need to talk, collaborate, and actually keep this network going. Otherwise, they're just heading for a tremendous money loss. The streaming bubble is going to burst. It's just a matter of time. I can't say with confidence which ones will survive and which ones will go under. But hopefully that leads to a cheaper, ad-free streaming experience. Otherwise, might as well plug the cable back in.